So, who has tried to be still and meditate and then driven themselves mad within the first 30 seconds because the thoughts won't stop pouring in? Anyone? What about, has anyone been told to relax by someone and then as a result felt their head wanting to explode? I totally get it. Relaxing is simply not as easy as closing the eyes and being still, at least for some of us, especially if we have a really high achieving, high performing essence about us. It can actually be very challenging to do something that seems like it should be easy, and then incredibly aggravating when people suggest it without acknowledging how hard it actually is. Is anyone else with me? I'm going to share a few reasons as to why it can be difficult to relax, as well as offer a couple of easy takeaways or things you can try to do to encourage your own nervous system to relax. I want to start by saying that when our nervous system is activated, it's extremely difficult to transition from a level of like 110% down to 20%. Like that jump, that gap is huge. So in the middle of the day, or even at the end of a really busy, hard day, when you try to close your eyes and meditate or be still to reset, your system might be like, what is happening? To understand this, I'm going to share a metaphor. So imagine that you are on a hike and you run into a big bear and her cubs. Just imagine it. Feel what might be happening in your body. Your heart would start to beat really quickly. Your breath would shorten. Your limbs would get this surge of power and tension. And all of these things happen in our biology to help us meet this challenge, to meet the presence of the bear on the hiking trail. Now, most of us probably aren't going to fight it, so that means we run. We get out of there, we flee from danger, and we have energy that's been released into our system as a result of that threat that helps us to move really quickly. As we are running, does it make sense to stop and close our eyes and focus on our breath and be still? Hell no. That would actually be really uncomfortable and counterproductive. So in that moment, our biology, literally the chemistry in our biology, is surging a wild amount of energy through our system. And closing our eyes and trying to be still would fight that chemistry. It doesn't make sense. It's the exact opposite of how our bodies have evolved over time to be present around stressors. Now, imagine a day in your life when you are very stressed out. For some of you, perhaps it's a chronic sort of stress, but replace the bear and her cubs with a really high pressure work presentation, or a packed email inbox immediately upon waking up that kind of just starts your day in a certain way. Or maybe an approaching, looming deadline that you think about over and over again that's creating pressure. Maybe it's being in a traffic jam as you are running late to work. Feel these things in the body. It's a lot of pressure, tension, short breath. So obviously it doesn't make a ton of sense that we would need the same amount of energy in our bodies for these daily stressors like the traffic jam and the work deadline, things like that, as we would if a bear popped onto our path. Like, we're not going to get out of a car in a traffic jam and run to work. But the nervous system hasn't evolved to respond to these daily modern day stressors that a lot of us encounter. It hasn't evolved to respond to them in an optimal way. So what does this mean for you? Let's say you're in the middle of your workday, flying through your schedule, putting out fires, showing up as the boss that you are, running solely on adrenaline, stress hormones. And there is a piece of you that knows you could be more present, calmer, less reactive, and even more effective in your workplace because of it. But how the hell do you do it? How do you go from an energy level of 110 to 10 or 0 in the small amount of time that you have? First tip, incorporate movement into your mindfulness practice. You can either do this before practicing stillness or as a replacement to it. The first example that I'll share is shaking. So you might shake your limbs before sitting down in stillness or lying down for a nap. I would say 30 seconds to a minute for each limb. You could time it, you could count it in your head, but literally, if you're not watching this right now, I'm shaking my arm, like literally shaking the hand, the arm, and I would just do this 30 seconds to a minute each one. If you don't have a ton of time, just shake out all of your limbs at once for as long as you can. But this really helps to discharge excess energy in the body that has built up as a result of stress hormones surging through. Think of it as like it's this little sprint that you would do to get away from the bear. It's like you're discharging that energy, you're showing that you ran, that you fought, and then you're more likely to be able to sit in stillness in a successful way. Perhaps you combine your meditation with a walk. So you could go outside, you could, if you have an indoor space only, just like walk around that indoor space. You might use a guided meditation, like put in some earbuds and experience that guided meditation while moving the body. Or you could do silence, but if you do this, try your best not to get swept away in your thoughts. So it's not like a strategizing session. It's like, can I be mindful to my environment? Can I open my eyes, as you should be if you're walking? Open your eyes and look at what's around. If you're outside, see the trees, notice the buildings, see the people walking around you. Be present in your environment. Of course, thoughts will pop up. I'm going to talk about that in a second. But the point of walking would be to be present, to practice mindfulness rather than strategize or plan. Yoga flows, or some of us love dancing, might be a really, really good way to be mindful and help the body move and discharge energy. Perhaps, you're so worked up that you need a really intense exercise to feel present. So high intervals, cardio, strength training. This would also be a super beneficial way to discharge energy. But I do want to say that if you are only doing high intensity exercise without incorporating rest and stillness for periods of recovery, you're probably taxing your system, especially if you are a high performer, high achiever, have a high demanding job. I find that a lot of high achievers really gravitate towards high intensity exercise. And I think this is because there's like this intuition of like, this feels good. I'm discharging energy. I'm releasing. And that is exactly what's happening when you're engaging in high intensity exercise. The problem is when we don't balance it with periods of rest, then we don't have a chance to recover from the output. Exercise is amazing for you. Amazing. We are meant to move. But if we are in a state of burnout and we don't pair it with rest, it can be depleting over time. So intense exercise pre-meditation can be a really good way to drop into stillness. So this means maybe cut your exercise 5 to 10 minutes short and have a guided meditation planned, put in the earbuds, sit still, take a short nap after your exercise. Think of it like my body has sprinted and escaped the bear per that super high intensity exercise. Now it's time to recover in the cave that I found to hide in. That's the piece a lot of us are missing, especially if we gravitate towards more high performing, high achieving energy. Second tip, don't try to push away your thoughts. The reason for this is that many of us have a really hard time doing restful things because our thoughts are flying a million miles a minute. So we avoid resting. And there are many ways of resting: naps, restorative yoga, baths, just lying down. But the practice of meditating can be a really, really helpful way to learn to relate to our thoughts in whatever restful position we find ourselves in. And for the purpose of this video, I'm going to discuss meditating as a form of rest. So we don't actually have to sit in an upright position to consciously relate to our thoughts. It can be a practice that we are always doing, while eating, while driving to work, while getting ready for bed. But in this case, for this video, specifically in moments of rest. So a really common perception about meditation is I can't meditate because I can't control my thoughts. My thoughts are going too fast. I'm horrible at meditating. Meditation, mindfulness practice can actually be the practice of letting our thoughts be there. When a thought pops in, rather than feel guilty or overwhelmed, see if you can say hi to that thought. I see you. And this is the key. Know that you are thinking. When we practice this conscious awareness of knowing that we are thinking, we are turning on high levels of cognition in the brain that will serve us in so many ways. But that's for another video. For now, just know that if you are someone who has a tornado of thoughts, you're not doing it wrong. There's literally no way, unless you are perhaps an enlightened monk, that we can be without our thoughts. The question with meditating is, how can those thoughts swirl about? Yet we create a conscious awareness and separate ourselves from identifying with them. This is not always easy. That's why it's a practice. My experience with high achievers and high performers is that we don't like to be mediocre or bad at things. It's really, really hard for us. And I'm here to tell you there is literally no way to be bad at meditating. It's not possible. Just the act of practicing it is everything. It's already a win to sit down and do it. There's no hierarchy in the essence of meditation. No one's better than another person. There's no right or wrong way of doing it. It just is. So this act of meditating, this act of relating to our thoughts can be applied towards any sort of rest or stillness we take. It can be when we nap, like while we're trying to fall asleep for a nap. Though some of us are so exhausted, we might just like conk out hard for, the 10 minutes we have. It might be when we're practicing a more still restorative yoga, we're relating to our thoughts. Of course, it's when we're moving, but for the purpose of this video, it's in stillness. How are you letting your thoughts just swirl and not let them, in the presence of them, take you away from the act of practicing stillness for your body to recover? I hope that these tips and gentle perspective shifts helped somehow in some way. As always, this work is extremely personalized for every single human. Yes, if you're following this channel, you are likely a high achiever or a high performer, but none of us have the exact same schedule, same family life, work responsibilities. We don't have the same personalities. So if you want guidance on how to incorporate relaxation and recovery amidst your own wild schedule in life, reach out. This is literally my area of expertise. I have a degree in neuroscience. I run a small and regular bodywork practice where I work with the nervous system with my hands. And I literally live as a high achiever, high performer every day. So I've embodied this work and I continue to embody it. I teach from direct experience and I love sharing the gems that I've discovered on my own journey throughout the years. My email is below. I'll also share a link to a free streaming of one of my meditations. It's called Nervous System Massage. Yum! I collaborated with a professional cello player and we put together a delicious meditation to soothe and calm the nervous system. It can be experienced any time of day, upon waking, in the middle of your workday, before bed. It's so good. I hope that you enjoy it if you end up trying it. Let me know what you think about all this in the comments. Let me know what your experience is with trying to incorporate rest into your life, what your challenges are, what your main takeaways from the video might have been. Give it a thumbs up if you found value in the content. Subscribe to my channel if you want more. You can even press the ring bell to get notification for future videos. I'm a pretty new channel and so much goodness is on the way. So I'm so grateful for all of you for tuning in and listening. And thank you for being curious about how to take care of yourself. It's so important.